begins.
Hello, and welcome to Hearthaholics Episode 5. This is our episode for the Wing Hidden Laboratory from Blackrock Mountain. I am your host, Bryan, and joining me today is Andres. Hello, Andres. How are you doing?
Hey, Bryan. How's it going?
It is going really well. I have actually played some Hearthstone this week, and I'm, unusually proud of that fact.
Nice. I am proud of you, too.
Thank you. It's actually because of that fact that we have risen up to, I believe, 2.1. We are the ranked 2.1 best podcast in the world now.
2.1. Damn, it's getting, harder to move up.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of it's honestly really close to the ladder, as I think at this rank, we don't even get win streaks. So it's a little bit difficult to get past this.
So the podcast ladder is, very similar to the Hearthstone ladder?
It is, yeah, it is really similar. I guess right now we would be, what is rank 2? It's not Molten Giant. It's
rank 2 is the Black Knight.
See, I wouldn't know because I've never been there. But yes, it's I look forward to the day that we are legend podcasters, but
well, that day we'll get there. Don't worry, Bryan.
Yeah, that day is not today. But today, or rather several days ago, is when Hidden Laboratory launched the last wing for Blackrock Mountain.
That's right. I'm super excited for it too. Finally, we reached the end goal, right? The final lap.
Yeah, I mean, I feel so sad going through all this because every time something releases, I want to know what the relevance was in World of Warcraft. I don't think this was part of the original raid, but I'm curious where all of these characters and bosses fit in. How did it wrap up in the actual Molten Core?
Oh, you're talking about the hidden lab?
The original raid, yeah. How does this tie into all of that? I just have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. I never actually got to do the Blackrock Mountain raid, so I don't know how it ends. I think I heard that the hidden lab wasn't a main thing in the original raid. I think it was more like a Hearthstone adaptation, so they could fit in all the cards that they wanted to release.
That's what I heard as well. I came to WoW pretty late, and even when I did, I was always a leveler, not a raider. So all that raiding content just goes right over my head.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
I got serious about WoW around the next Ramas, the second next Ramas, Wrath of the Lich King, when it first came out. I remember that when the that expansion was gonna come out, I suddenly got an urge to play, and I had a good enough computer and good enough internet at the time. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. And I was right out of high school, so just starting college. Perfect. So I had a lot of free time around that time.
Yep, and random friends in your dorm you could rope into it.
Yeah, exactly. And
college is always the salad days for WoW players that I hear from. It's just
those are golden days for WoW, for sure.
Exactly. It's when you now have the option to skip class because you're an adult, but you don't have actual adult responsibilities. So it's a perfect time to play way too much World of Warcraft.
That's right.
I would just be up to speed if they released a Westfall expansion because I know the leveling areas well. So I just want to release Elwyn Forest, the expansion. So
that's funny.
Happen though. But yeah, so what have you been doing since Hidden Laboratories launch? How have you been spending your time?
I've been trying some decks. I'm infatuated with the Patron Warrior. I love that deck. It's just such a fun deck because, I don't know, it's such a different playstyle from what the other one is, the Control Warrior. That for the first time, I'm actually having a lot of fun playing Warrior. I remember, right before, the past week, I had, 9 ranked wins with Warrior. And now I have, 85 or something like that.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm in the exact opposite boat where Control Warrior was pretty much my favorite deck since I started playing it, and I'm terrible at Patron Warrior so far. So it's I'm just sitting here going, shoot, Warrior has left me in the dust. Now the best Warrior to play is the one I don't know how to play. Now I have to learn new things. I don't like doing that.
Although, ironically, if you tech the Control Warrior out the right way, you actually have a pretty good chance against the Patron Warrior.
That is a funny thing I heard.
And then you also have a pretty good matchup against a lot of the other decks that are in the meta right now. So Control Warrior is not out of the meta completely. It's still definitely around, which makes it even better because now Warrior actually has 2 possible decks that you can face. So you don't
Yeah.
automatically know what you're facing.
You need to give me a lesson on Grim Patron Warrior. We need to record it and throw it up on our channel.
Yeah, for sure. That would be a cool idea because it's not an easy deck to play. I've had a hard time like learning it. In the beginning, I was struggling a little bit because you do have to learn some of the synergies and like when to hold back your cards, when to actually unleash, because so many of your cards are good because of the way they interact with other cards, that if you use them prematurely, you can find yourself in a lot of trouble or with a very clunky hand.
Yeah, I find combo decks like that are really difficult to play compared to, tempo decks you just want to keep having board control, so it's very easy to see if you're doing well. Control decks you want to keep the other board clear, so it's also kind of easy to see if you're doing well. Aggro decks, everything goes for face, like Face Hunter, but in combo decks, it's very easy to think you're way behind, because the board, you might be losing the board, you might be losing on health, but it's about just drawing those right cards that work together, like Oil Rogue and that sort of thing, that you can go suddenly from being behind, and one card draw can suddenly turn your hand into something that can turn the whole game around.
Yeah, that's right. And this deck is very much like that. The beginning of the game, you're basically trying to cycle through your deck as much as you can, so you can draw into the actual cards that you want. But that's one of the strengths of this deck, that because you have so much cycling power, in most matchups, you'll be able to come across the combination of cards that you need. Or if you start with a really ugly hand, you have a big chance of fixing that mid-game, unless maybe you're facing like really fast aggro where you don't have a chance to come back.
Right.
But even against aggro, this deck is really good, especially because the version I've been playing carries the Armor Smiths, and I feel like a lot of people have been playing the Armor Smith because you can gain so much armor when you fill up your board with patrons or with other guys, and then you whirl one twice in one turn. You can gain, like 10, 12 armor easily.
Not to mention, you might have a Frothing Berserker on board.
Yeah, exactly. Frothing Berserker is like the unsung hero of this deck, actually. Because it's called Patron Warrior, but Frothing Berserker is like one of the stars of the deck, actually. You win a lot of the matchups because of that guy. And you also, when learning how to play the deck, you have to realize what matchups you want to rely on Frothing Berserker and what matchups you want to rely on the Patron as your win condition.
Yeah, it reminds you a little bit of, there was an ascendancy a while ago of the Math Warrior. Kind of seems like the Mathier Warrior rather than the Patron deck.
There's a lot of math in this deck.
You're doing even more numbers now.
Yeah, you have to constantly be counting mana. You have to be counting the health on your minions because you damage them constantly. You have to be counting the possibility of your Frothing Berserker, because once a lot of creatures are on the board, you kind of have to make the math of like, okay, if I whirl one once, then my Frothing Berserker is going to be this big. If I do it twice, it's going to be this big. Plus all the minions I have on the board, is that lethal? So you're constantly doing math, and if you're not counting every turn, you're not playing this deck right.
Right. Yeah, and it reminds you a little of Oil in that sense.
Yeah.
Except it seems a little bit more focused on what you have on the board than Oil was. Oil was just about, get something on the board. This is everything is a specific interaction with each other. So it's like having a Frothing Berserker and an Armor Smith on the board is so different than having, a Grim Patron on the board. So it's like, it becomes a very different idea of having all of these minions work with each other. Of course, the Warsong Commander, the one that gets them all charged, is like the key to everything.
Yeah, Warsong Commander is amazing in this deck. It's so good.
And even that's kind of like, go ahead.
I was just going to say that, especially for the body, it's such a huge threat that whenever you put it out, your opponent has to go out of their way to try to remove it. And a lot of the times, just trying to remove that guy puts them very behind, especially because after you play the Warsong Commander, you usually have a very big power turn. So he's a really, really cool minion in this deck. I'm very glad that he is getting all this used.
And that's kind of the cool thing is, if I remember correctly, it used to just let, like, in beta, I believe, it let any creature have charge, I believe. And then they had to nerf it a lot.
Oh, no, that's crazy. Yeah, imagine any creature with charge.
It may have just been, like, one more power, but I think it was any creature. And then what's cool about the Patron idea is it's kind of, they're using a back door. It's like, well, what if we just spam a bunch of 3/3s so they all get charged? Or what if we put the Frothing Berserker as like a back door because he gets charge when he's a 2/4, and then buffs himself up and he still has charge.
Yeah.
Which is like a really cool way around the mechanic.
Patron Warrior is such a cool card too because it's a card that requires some setup from the player that is using it. You can't just use it like willy-nilly and throw it out there. You have to use it at the right time against the right board.
Yeah.
But then also I feel like it's a card that is well balanced because if you're playing against a person that knows how to play against your deck, they can do a lot of like cool little moves to play around your patron. I've played against some really good players while I was playing my my patron deck, and a lot of the people who know how to play against this deck will know when to kill their low attack minions, like 1 attack or 2 attack. They know when your patron warrior turn is coming up. And they sacrifice all their little minions, and they leave nothing in the board that has like less than 3 attack.
Yeah, I've made that mistake. I've had lethal done to me because I tossed out a minion that would allow patrons to trade into it. I think it was a zombie chow or something. And oh, shoot.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to be very careful when you're playing against this deck. Like, for example, turn 6 or 7, and especially 8. Turn 8 is when the patron and Warzone commander can come out. So you have to be watching out for these turns.
Yeah, so do you think is the best way to like fight against this? Is there any deck that you've been running into that you're like, oh no, I'm dead?
So this deck struggles against decks that have a lot of removal and that don't play a lot of minions.
So Control Warrior.
Control Warrior is surprisingly good against it, especially because they can armor up a lot in the beginning, and then you're kind of out of luck. And then they do carry stuff like Brawl to where like, and sometimes they're even carrying double Brawl just to fight against the Patron Warrior. So they have ways of getting rid of it. Priest can also be a deck that can give you a lot of trouble. And even
interestingly to me, I just realized Revenge could turn into kind of an anti-patron warrior card because it's a warrior way to do 3 damage to everything.
Yeah, even in the mirror, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Because if you're the warrior that's behind on the mirror, this gives you a chance to catch up.
It also, if you're the warrior that's ahead, say you're both running one, it gives you a chance to activate your patrons again. Yeah. So it kind of works both ways. That's a neat idea.
It's a cool card for this type of deck, I feel.
But I'm just so happy with the Patron Warrior because that was the card, I think I said it, I think most of us said it, and a lot of other people previous, it was the fun gimmick card of the set. Like, we all loved it, it was the underdog, it was probably going to be played in a couple decks, but it was a pretty gimmicky feature with a high cost, and it's like, how much is this going to be used? It's kind of just the dream card. And it's turned out to be the most competitive card that came out of the set. Like, that's crazy.
Oh, there's a lot of competitive cards in this set, I feel, but it is definitely one of the biggest ones, and it's definitely one of the ones that has had one of the biggest splashes in the metagame. It created a whole new deck based around it, right?
Yeah, that's a better way to say it. I should just say it is in what is pretty much the number 1 deck right now, and it kind of created that. But people like Thaurissan and other cards are, equally competitive. They're just in different ways.
Yeah, but especially now that all the cards are out this week, I'm really excited to see what's coming out. I was experimenting with a couple of other things too. I did a little bit of Dragon Priest.
Oh yeah,
and I'm really digging that. I think I need to fine tune a little more. But I was playing with the Dragonkin Sorcerer. The new dragon card, the 3/5 that gains +1/+1 whenever you play a spell on him. That card is really, really cool. Like, if you just put a circle, not a circle, but
Power
Word Shield on it, it becomes an 4/8.
That's pretty good. That's like an excellent Twilight Drake.
Yeah. And then also, let's say, Villain's Chosen, he instantly becomes a 6.
Oh man, that's a good point. Because Priest actually has runnable enchantments. Like, they work pretty well.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really neat.
I was trying the Priest deck out, and like, once you get that guy running, if your opponent's not running a silence or a hard removal, he becomes a huge threat, especially because it's so hard to kill in one blow, and you can keep healing as a priest. And then it works well with things like Light Bomb or Circle Akinai, because it doesn't get killed with those things.
How are you fitting the Twilight Whelp in? Because that's the card I was curious about. Like, does it go in the Priest Dragon deck?
I've been running in the Priest Dragon deck. So far, I've had pretty good luck with it. There's been really not that many situations where I don't have a dragon in my hand with this deck because I'm running that guy, the little dragon. I'm running the Dragonkin Sorcerer. I'm running Azure Drakes. I'm running the Hungry Dragons. I'm also running Twilight Drakes, but I think I'm gonna swap those out because I do like him, but they tend to be a little clunky and they are very vulnerable to silence.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So it sounds like, the Twilight Whelps in most cases are going to fulfill the role of Zombie Chow, but not heal your opponent. The one thing that's kind of a bummer is you don't get, the Akanai synergy with them, but that doesn't come up that often.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think the Akanai Zombie Chow is that much of a incentive to play the Zombie Chows.
I agree with you.
Zombie Chow was the incentive to play him is just he's a solid body for, your initial turns.
Yeah, exactly. It's getting that presence, and it sounds like most of the time with Dragon Priest, you're going to be able to do that with the Twilight Whelp.
Yeah, that's right. And I don't know. There's been like a couple games that I've had the Twilight Whelp without any dragons in it, and it does kind of suck. But at the end of the day, if you just play it as a 2/1, it kind of does the same thing that you wanted it for. It trades up with one creature. It just doesn't stick around.
Yeah.
But then you follow it up, with the Blackwing Technician and Hungry Dragon, which are all huge, or even like what's the name of the Dark Cultist?
Oh, wait, the name of the Dark Cultist?
No, I was trying to remember the name, but then I remember the name.
Oh, okay. I'm like, what is the name of the Dark Cultist? Well, Andres, let me tell you. Yeah, well, that sounds okay. Those are two really cool decks. So you've been playing any others beyond those?
And I tried the Dragon Paladin with some of the new cards. Is
that working
That
yet?
one definitely needs some fine tuning.
Yeah.
So I tried the new Drakes, the Volcanic Drakes, and then the new cards, Solemn Vigil. And they're such cool cards, but I feel like maybe a big dragon deck is not the best place for these guys. I can see more of a paladin that has a little lower curve and tries to gain the board on the mid game and just do a ton of power plays with Muster for Battle.
Yep.
And maybe the Haunted Creepers and other little cards. I was experimenting with the Dragonkin Sorcerer in that deck as well, and then running the 1-mana spells, the Divine Shield and the +3 attack.
Yes.
I can't remember what the names of those cards are.
Just last episode, I was talking about how I wish those cards are more viable. That's a cool idea to try to use them.
Yeah, no, those work really, really well with the Dragonkin Sorcerer, and they work well with your other dragons as well. I mean, giving Divine Shield to any dragon is good because they're all huge, and then you can trade super favorably with them. And then let's say you give Divine Shield to the Sorcerer, and you got a 4/6 with Divine Shield.
Yeah, I mean that's a big swing right there.
Yep.
And a very sustainable creature.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or I should say minion.
And then the Volcanic Drake is cool because once you trade on your turn, you can play him really cheaply. I remember I had some turns where I was able to play Thorsen, and I had two of the new dragons for the Paladin, the Consorts.
Yes.
And that becomes insane. I had Chromagus, 2 Consorts, and I played the Thorsen, and then I think on my next turn I played Consort, and then Chromagus.
I think that's really interesting because the Paladin has a way to play a more aggressive game with a higher curve. Because of the Consorts, they can play stuff like Chromagus, and they can play stuff like Alexstrasza or Ysera, whatever kind of combination of dragon cards, these big power 8 and 9 drops, without having to run a deck that has to sustain itself until turn 9.
Yeah.
So it's a way to have a more aggressive deck with this bigger power, which I think is a really cool way to play dragons, because you can be aggressive and you can also throw out overpowered cards at the same time.
Yeah, but I feel like most of the people are trying to go for this more late game, big curve kind of deck. I think maybe the Dragon Paladin might work a little better if it's more a very mid-rangey. It takes over from turn 3 to turn 7 is like super powerful turns.
Yeah, I can see that as well. Having like an aggressive start that really uses, the flood of minions and all of the benefits you get from minions dying, but then also can drop maybe like 1 or 2 late threats early by using its consorts, rather than being a deck that tries to like force itself into the control endgame type.
Yeah, and then Solemn Vigil is also an awesome new card. I really like that card. You have to watch out for like the best time to use it. Whenever you have spare mana, and especially if you're gonna wipe the opponent's board or you're gonna trade a bunch of your creatures, like try watching out for Solemn Vigil, because it's a card that it's not that hard to sneak in for like 2 mana. Sometimes you're gonna have to play it for 3 mana. Just trade one of your creatures for the other one and play it as a normal arcane intellect. But then usually on turn 4 or 5, you can usually kill more than 3 creatures, because it also counts your creatures, and then you sneak in Solemn Vigil for 2 mana, or sometimes even 1 mana, and then you keep fueling your hand like that.
Right, yeah, I remember one of my biggest problems with an aggressive Paladin deck is it relied on Divine Favor to regen the hand.
Yeah.
And it was not always a reliable way to keep your hand full. It could be very awkward to use. So I like the idea of Paladin getting another way other than an 8 mana card to keep its hand full.
Yeah, I agree. And then like on the Dragon Paladin, most of the creatures are like big and hefty, so they usually get a lot of value from them. So if you just draw like 2 extra cards as like great fuel for your hand.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like you've been mostly working on the ranked, or jumping the ladder and trying out different decks. Have you been doing any of the bosses? Or obviously you beat the normal bosses, but
I did a couple of the bosses. I did the first 2. I'm missing the last 2 of the last wing. The first 2 were relatively easy, except Maloriak. He was a little hard in the beginning.
Yes, I had trouble with Maloriak for sure.
Yeah, because that buff, the +2/+2 to all the minions that he plays, oh my god, that is so hard.
And it's interesting, I was like, I'll just look through my collection and find something that, it's overpowered if you swap its attack and health, and there aren't too many cards that you're just like, yep, this is way better now.
No, there honestly aren't. I mean, honestly, nothing can compete if all of his creatures are getting +2/+2.
Yeah, exactly. So what did you end up doing to beat him, out of curiosity?
For that one, I used a priest with a ton of silence.
That's a cool idea. Master Spell and all that?
Yeah, Master Spell, and I use Owls and Spell Breakers.
Yeah.
And then, I would just try to silence all of them. But honestly, it was Master Spell who won me that matchup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, overall, I actually did not find this wing nearly as difficult as the last one.
As Cro-Magus!
Yeah, Cro-Magus!
There you go. You do it way better than I do.
It's the Omnitron defense system I beat just with the mid-range Paladin, like my second try.
Yeah, that one wasn't too hard either. I used the Patron Warrior for that one.
Yeah, it was just kind of beatable. And then, actually, I've heard the awesome thing about that boss is, okay, so he always plays his robots in order for the first time.
Yeah.
So he plays that robot that makes spells 3 mana less. People were just running an infinite fireball Archmage Antonidas build, where that was just really easy, because all you have to do is throw down 1 Sorcerer's Apprentice, and then you can just fling fireballs to his face and win.
That's cool. Yeah, I feel like there was a ton of ways you could beat that one. You could just abuse some of the minions, since like it would kind of like benefit you both. I was taking advantage of the acidic one that would deal 1 damage to all your creatures.
Oh, Grim Patron.
So I would just like set up a huge Patron turn with that guy out, and then I just took over in the one.
That's perfect. And Atrametus, the blind dragon that has the super weapon, I was thinking I would have to like tech in all these cards and all this stuff, but I beat him, I think, my first try just with my Paladin deck. I just played Harrison on the right turn, and it was
mid-range
over. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So just play Harrison on the right turn. I think I got a little bit lucky, but it was just like, oh, well, that's over the first try. That was
Harrison Jones doing the trick.
That belongs in a museum.
Did you manage to beat the last form of Nefarian?
I have not yet. I was literally doing that as we started podcasting. Cool. So I need to go back and do that. But yeah, it just wasn't as hard of a wing, which is kind of nice. When I saw 4 bosses again, I was just like, I just barely got through the last wing. I don't know if I
Yeah,
had the
I
energy.
feel you. I mean, the heroics are fun, but I feel
Mhm.
like they lose their charm eventually just because you're playing against an AI.
Yeah, I think just over time it gets kind of tiresome. I kind of blame myself for how I was playing it because I wanted to do it when they came out. I was forcing myself to beat all the heroics before I played on ladder. So it's just starting to feel like I want to play Hearthstone, but I need to do heroics first.
Yeah,
So every time I got
exactly.
in the game, I was forcing myself to do heroics, and I was starting to build up resentment against them because I'm like, I just want to play the game,
Yeah,
but I
yeah,
can't
yeah.
yet.
And that's the other thing. Like, especially if you're trying to do the heroics honestly and not that deck out of the internet, it
Yes.
takes some time. You know, you have to edit your
Yep.
deck and you have to think about the strategy and figure
Right.
something out, and sometimes even get a little lucky during the matchup.
Exactly. I don't play Hearthstone to think, so I find this concept slightly offensive. But no, really, it's it's a lot of fun. I enjoyed that last week intensely and pretty much came up with all my own ideas. But as you heard for this, like my strategy for Nefarian came from other people, and I
Yeah.
got some ideas with Maloriak. I basically just saw that people were running Zoolock, I think, and kind of built my own to do that, and that worked okay. So this wing, I wasn't quite as intense on it, but I'm just like, once I'm not stopping now because I'm just one boss away from the card back, and then I can
Yeah.
get that and be
I need to
done.
get that car back too, and then after this,
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna go back to Nax and get my car back from that because
Yep.
I was lazy in Nax and never got it.
I got
Um,
stuck on the dragon that kills you, all of your minions every single turn, and I'm like, well, no, I don't know how to beat this thing. So
Freeze
yeah,
Mage.
that's my problem. Is I don't have any Doomsayers, and I don't have any. I don't think that Doomsayers would matter for that deck, but I also don't have any. What's the other one? The
Ice
Ice
Block?
Block. I don't have any Ice Blocks,
Yeah,
so just like
that one
shit.
is quite vital for that deck.
Yeah,
I
I
would
finally
argue that
got.
Doomsayers are pretty vital for it too.
Oh, I agree. I just think against that guy, he kills your minions every turn, so
Oh
it
yeah,
wouldn't
yeah. I
help
guess it
against
doesn't matter.
him. But the one thing that would help is Pyroblast, which I did finally open in a pack the other day.
Nice.
So I'm excited about that, especially now that Pyroblast is actually better with Thaurissan around, because you don't have to cast it for 10 mana.
That's right.
So
Although
it
most
is
of the
pretty
time you'll be
exciting.
casting it for about 9 mana,
Yeah.
which
But hey,
doesn't
gives you
make that much
time
of a difference, but it's still.
Yeah, you can arcane missiles for lethal. Because that's doable. But yeah, it was a fun wing for sure. A very epic final confrontation. I found it very funny when Nefarian is like, "Oh, I need to come up with a new name for you." And then when you went into the next battle, I don't know if you saw, but your actual player name was like Slayer of Incompetent Minions.
Oh yeah, he does change the name for you. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's just I love it when Hearthstone again taking advantage of being a digital game and just having fun with it and like things that are normal like turning on its head. It's really fun when they do that. So
Absolutely.
I thought it was really fun. I'm excited to see like what they do next. For whatever. I mean, it's going to be a while for our next adventure, but I'm really curious like what the aesthetic is going to be.
Yeah, I was
Um,
thinking about that too the other day. It's like we just got this expansion. We're already thinking about the next one,
Uh huh.
but that's a good sign, right? When you're like excited to see what is
Yeah.
gonna keep coming out.
Yeah, I'm actually beyond just the next adventure. Like, I wonder what their next like series of packs is going to be because that's what their next expansion is going to be. I imagine
Yeah,
it's going
if
to be a
they go
GBG
by
style
how
one.
they've been going the past few expansions, then yeah, it should be like another big like pack expansion.
And those are interesting to me because there's no just direct like, well, which WoW raid is it going to be? That's cool, but you know, it's existing. It's just going to like they have anything they can do for packs. Like,
Yeah.
I think it would be really cool to do like a night elf focused one. That would be awesome.
Oh,
Like there
that'd
are
be
just
kinda
so
cool.
many.
Like a little
What-
more focus on the races.
Yeah, I mean, Goblins versus Gnomes is very focused on two specific races, but like I don't know, other ones like if they kept up the idea of making it about two races each time, like a Blood Elf and Night Elf one or something, I would
Oh,
be
interesting. That'd be kind of
ridiculously
cool.
excited
Yeah.
about. So I'm very excited to see what they come up with that. I am just I am waiting for when they do a Pandaria one. I know it's going to be a long time, but that is my most awaited expansion pack.
We do have a couple of pandas around.
Yeah, and there's already a Pandaria board, so I don't know what they're going to do about that. Make another one, I guess, but it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, every single card in the Pandaria expansion pack will return a card to your hand. That's just
Oh
the
my
only
God.
mechanic. I actually hope that
A bunch
doesn't
of
happen.
bouncing pandas all over the place.
Exactly. It's like bouncing blades, but it's bouncing panda. It just hops between cards, returning them all to their owner's hands. That's pretty good. But yeah, so what I've been doing beyond, as we talked about all the different bosses, is I've been jumping on ladder and playing Zoolock when I can. You actually joined me for a lot of that.
Yeah, Zoolock is at a very good place right now.
It really is. I was surprised and kind of pleasantly so, because it is my favorite aggro deck that's ever been around. Like, I don't even know if it's quite what you would call it as aggro, but it's a fast and cheap deck.
It's a pretty aggressive deck. It's definitely a deck that is asking the questions.
Exactly, but it's also one that I find is very easy to teach new players, and I think when it is in vogue, it creates a much better experience for people getting into the game. Because I think it's a very fun deck to play when you're new at the game. I think much more than Face Hunter.
I agree, and I think it's a good deck to learn a lot of the fundamentals, because you're very focused on the board, and then it's also a relatively cheap deck. Not so much the Zoolock that's around right now, but traditional Zoolock, it's pretty cheap, and then you're forced to learn how to efficiently trade, when to go face, when to gain control of the board. It's a deck that can go really aggressive or can also be very defensive, depending on the deck that you're playing against, especially with the Arguses and the way you buff your minions and the eggs and all that stuff.
Yeah, there are a lot more like fun specific mechanics and combos to throw out in the current iteration. Stuff like the, like you said, the egg and throwing the, what is it? Is it another Void card, the 3/3?
The Void Terror?
Oh my gosh, they need to stop using Void. It's so confusing. Void guys. So yeah, the Void Terror is a lot of fun to use in combination with different cards. And then obviously the Void Hauler, which pulls demons from your hand, is a fun new mechanic.
Yeah,
and like
he's really powerful in that deck.
Oh yeah, my biggest problem with old Zoolock was it felt like I could just run out of steam, and I always wished it was kind of closer to a mid-range deck. And now that there's this mid-range one out there that plays stuff a little higher on the curve and gives you more options throughout the entire game, it's much more my kind of speed of deck. So I'm
and a lot of people are fitting in like Dr. Boom and Loatheb, so you actually do curve out pretty well with the deck.
Some people even go Mal'Ganis, which is interesting because you don't even need the mana to play him every time.
Absolutely. Yeah, you never play Mal'Ganis just out of your hand. You just bring it out with a Void Color, and then it becomes amazing, especially if you have some of the imps out there in the board.
Yeah, I feel Warlock has been getting their most fun cards fit really well into Zoolock, which I think are like Implosion and Bane of Doom and Mal'Ganis, and all of those work really well in how Zoolock works now.
Actually, now that you mentioned Warlock, Handlock is back too.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Like kind of a demon variety of it, right?
Yeah, but like traditional Handlock is back, like with the giants and all and the drakes and stuff. Since a lot of people are playing like Patron Warrior and or like Control Warrior, Handlock is actually an amazing deck against Patron Warrior.
Handlock has always been like my favorite deck I've never played because I don't have Jiraxes. So I love everything about Handlock, but I've never played Handlock. And it's like, once I get Jiraxes, I feel I'm going to start playing Handlock and never go back.
You know, you don't really need Jiraxes nowadays. I would say you could even fit like Mal'Ganis instead of Jiraxes.
I don't have Mal'Ganis.
Or you don't even need either of them if you want to play. Okay. As long as you got the Giants and the Azure Drakes, you're kind of good to go.
That's cool. I didn't have Molten Giants for a really long time, and then I just crafted 2 of them on a whim. And so, yeah, I'm actually really curious to give that a try because I played some Handlock to beat quite a few of the bosses, and I just had so much fun with how that deck plays.
Yeah, I would say like right now is a good chance to try it. Patron Warrior, for example, struggles a ton against Warlock, Handlock specifically.
Yeah, you don't exactly want to run your 3/3s into 2 taunted Molten Giants.
No, exactly. And you only run 2 executes, and after that, you're done.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'd like to try that out. So let's go ahead and talk about the new cards that came out with this expansion.
Sure. I think before that, though, we have to address the elephant in the room.
Oh, right. Or rather, the elephant not in the room.
Carried away talking about what we've been doing the whole week and stuff, and I don't think we've even mentioned that Billy is not here with us today.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think it was just schedule conflicts because he's like 13 hours apart from us in terms of what time it is for him. And so apparently he wasn't quite sure when we were recording, and now we can't get in touch with him. So hopefully we will be able to, but this is the only time we can record.
Hopefully he's alive and okay, and yes. He we'll get in touch with him soon.
I heard from him very recently, but I think it was like right before he was going to sleep.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure he's okay, but
Yeah, it's a bummer, but it was the only time that we could record. So Billy, unless something crazy happens, should be back with us next week. But yeah, you're right. We totally forgot to mention that at the top of the show because
we got too carried away with Hearthstone.
Yeah, we got off on our tangent.
Straight into the meat.
If you're in the middle of writing us an email saying, "Did you guys murder Billy?" and you can stop. You don't have to send it.
Billy's still here.
Yep. He's just gone. I mean, honestly, probably playing RuneScape. That's my guess.
Actually, that's my guess. He probably just got cut up in RuneScape. And
you need to get into RuneScape and just start yelling at him. Send him whispers.
It's the only way to reach him now. It's like, Inception, like he's too far away in the dream.
He bought an Oculus Rift.
Yeah, we have to dive in and bring him back.
That would make for a great short film. Okay. Remember to do that.
Saving Billy.
All right. Yep, Saving Private Billy. All right, moving on to the cards from this wing. We'll start with the one you get from defeating the Omnitron defense system. It is a 6-cost minion. It is called Volcanic Drake. It is 6 attack, 4 health, dragon type, and reads, costs 1 less for each minion that died this turn. What do you think of this card, Andres? I'm torn on it. The stats seem pretty good, but I'm not sure I even like them much more than like a Yeti stats.
That's true. His stats are not super impressive, but here's what you have to keep in mind. Usually you will not be playing him for the same resources that you will be playing a Yeti.
Okay.
I had a little bit of experience with him. I didn't play that much with him, but on the games that I did play with him, I ended up playing it complementary in a turn as other stuff. So, for example, in the Paladin deck that I was playing, you can consecrate on one turn and wipe your opponent's board, and then play this guy on top of that, which you would not be able to do, let's say, with a Yeti, right?
Right.
So not only you put a lot of pressure on your opponent, you then put a 6/4 on the board that they now have to worry and deal with, and more likely the amount of resources that they're gonna put into killing your Drake is gonna be more than the one you put playing him.
Yeah, and I have to imagine with decks like Zoolock out right now, this is a pretty good card to have because Zoolock plays a bunch of minions on the board. So, like, you have a lot of opportunity to take those out and then play this guy.
Yeah, I agree. This guy definitely has to be in a deck where you have stuff on the board, right? Because you kind of want to trade your stuff with your opponent so you can play this for really cheap. Or you basically want to have a power turn with it, like a huge tempo swing. Just playing him outright for his cost is really inefficient and will probably put you behind. So this guy, you want to hold on to this guy until the turn is right and you can sneak it in for a discount.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting about this mechanic, this whole costs 1 less for each minion that died mechanic that came with Blackrock, is it's so hard to evaluate because it depends so much on what type of deck you're playing, and it even depends what type of deck your opponent is playing. So it becomes like a really hard card to evaluate, because against something like Handlock, where there are only a handful of minions, or Control Warrior, which plays very few, it gets much, much harder to play this thing.
Yeah.
So
depending against what deck you're playing, the card might be better or worse. But that's the thing, like, it is hard to evaluate cards like this because the value of these cards changes depending on the turn. So a 6/4 for 6 is terrible, but a 6/4 for 2 mana is really good.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's an interesting mechanic because it is such a flexible one. With other like tech cards or whatnot, the mechanics can just be like, if they have 3 or more minions or 4 or more minions, do this effect. And it's just like, black and white. But this thing is very much like, it's gradual. If you can kind of play it for 4 or play it for 2. So it's almost like a giant in that respect, in that it's not just like an on or off switch on whether the mechanic's going to help you. It's very situational, which makes it harder to know when to play it and when to not, and when to keep it in your deck and when to not.
Yeah, but I really like this mechanic because it makes you think about the game differently. It's almost like each minion that dies is like a free coin.
Yeah,
when you're playing cards like this.
It uses minions as a resource.
Yeah, your minions become
really cool.
A resource for you to play cards. So trading becomes like almost desired. So I see it in decks that are aggressive and that also take control of the board and like trading. So many decks like Zoolock, although I don't know if I would put this in Zoolock, although it could fit, if you do it like an implosion and then you sacrifice all your imps and then you play a 6/4.
Yeah, I don't hate this in Zoolock. You're trading a lot. I also liked Hungry Dragon in Zoolock, so I mean, there are definitely options for this. I mean, it'll be really interesting to see. I agree with you that I really enjoy the mechanic.
And same for Paladin. Paladin has a lot of minions that they put on the board and that they are constantly trading, right? There is Silverhand recruits. Those guys die like every other turn.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And I think it's also good in any card or any deck that is an arena deck because trading galore around arena. You want good stats. So I think this is
I want to see more cards with this mechanic, actually.
Yeah. I mean, this last wing actually... Is it 2 or 3 that came out with this one? So they're getting some more into the game.
Yeah, I think 2.
This in the Paladin card?
Yeah, I think it's only those 2.
Yeah, so we'll see how that pans out, but I'm pretty excited about it. Another thing I'm pretty excited about is the reward from defeating Meloriak. It is a 5-cost card, a minion. It is titled Blackwing Corruptor. Common rarity. It is a 5 attack and 4 health, and it reads, Battle Cry, if you're holding a dragon, deal 3 damage.
What do you think about this guy?
That's what I was just trying to think. Okay, and I wouldn't play it in Shaman because I would just play Fire Elementals instead, probably. But in pretty much any other class, I think this is actually a really cool card.
Yeah,
anyone that runs dragons.
You definitely have to run dragons to make this guy worthwhile.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise, there's no way to justify running this card, like, literally.
Unless you really want to confuse your opponent. Maybe you're playing, like, ultimate mind games, and you want to
make him think you're playing dragons.
Yeah, he's like, oh, he doesn't have any dragons in his hand, he's screwed. But in reality, you're playing, like, a combo deck that does something completely different.
I've said this before, but I'm still so fascinated there is not a tech card that destroys target dragon. Like, that's still weird to me. With so many dragons that are non-legendary now, so, like, Rind won't hit them, and so many dragons that are non-BGH targetable, I kind of like that they didn't create a meta where everyone is having to tech in this card that could destroy a dragon, because I could just see that as a mechanic so easily.
I don't know, maybe they saw that as too harsh, like, we don't want to scare the dragons away, we're just, barely getting them in here.
Exactly.
They're kind of rare, not a lot of them are around, we don't want to just kill them all.
Exactly. But yeah, this guy's cool because you just get a lot of tempo and value out of him. I mean, a 5/4 on the board is always nice. In addition, dealing 3 damage that's targeted is just awesome. Like, it's just an amazing effect.
I agree. And then the 5/4 is actually really nice because on the 5th turn, a lot of times you're going to get a Belcher, right? Your opponent might play a Belcher.
Yep.
And with this guy, you can hit whatever is behind the Belcher and then threaten the Belcher.
For sure. Also, on the 5th turn, they might have played a Lothab. And you're like, hey, this guy kills a Lothab and kills something else, and it's not a spell. So it gives you a really good draw.
Yeah, or it kills the piloted Shredder that got played on the turn before.
Exactly. It's just so versatile for turn 5. I think the
stats are very appropriate, and I think it fits into a lot of Dragon decks for sure.
Yeah, it's just solid. I don't think I'm curious, do you have an idea of if this is being run in Dragon decks? Have you been playing it?
I've been playing it a little bit, and yes, I've had people play it against me. It's not a card that when it gets played against me, I feel really bad. Like, it's a good card, but it's manageable, right? It's solid. It still dies to a swipe. It still trades with, like, maybe if you have a creature, maybe like a spell. It definitely puts a wrench on your path.
Yeah.
When it gets played against you, because it is a good tempo swing, and you do have to deal with him, because at the end of the day, he is a 5/4, so, he hurts if he hits you.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's so close to Fire Elemental that I feel you can kind of just say it's like seeing a more widespread Fire Elemental. That's never been a card that has just been like, they played it, I lose, like a Dr. Boom kind of card. But it's always been a card that has been extremely solid in the deck it's in. And the fact that it could come out for a turn earlier, and the only downside, assuming you have a dragon, is being 1 stat worse, that's amazing. Like,
yeah.
That's just very, very solid. It can go in a lot of decks that basically just want to play some tempo and have dragons.
Yeah, so. And that's a key word, tempo, because you're playing a creature and dealing damage at the same time. So it has like the same effect as, let's say, an SI agent, where it allows you to take control of the board, and then at the same time make your opponent have to deal with your stuff. So it gains you a lot of tempo.
For sure. Another card your opponent will have to deal with is the Dracnoid Crusher. This is a 6-cost minion. It is common rarity, 6 attack, and 6 health. It is a dragon type, and it reads Battle Cry. If your opponent has 15 or less health, gain +3/+3. I have no idea if I like this card. I'm leaning on I don't, but I'm willing to be convinced.
So I don't have that many arguments for this card. It's not a horrible card. It's 6/6 for 6 is decent.
And 6/6 for 6 dragon is already played in arena if you have other dragon synergy. It's almost as good as an ogre, and it has that extra base synergy. So
I would say for arena, it's actually a really good card.
Yeah,
very decent stats, and then if your opponent's low, it becomes a huge threat to finish
the
him
BGH threat is almost gone in arena.
You don't have to worry about BGH that much in arena. I mean, you might get somebody play one against you every once in a while, but it's not very common.
Mm-hmm.
But for ladder, I don't know. For the 6th slot, there are just so many other good choices. Sylvanas, Thaurissan. You even got the Piloted Shredders, which are a little bit more resilient. And honestly, how many dragon decks plan to have their opponent below 14 health that early?
Yeah, this early, it's a really tough sell. I mean, if you drop it in a top deck, it's a fairly good card because a late game top deck war, it's pretty cool because you're probably going to get a 9/9 out of it. And they probably won't have an answer.
Right, but what if you're behind and you top deck this guy?
And that's the problem is it's a card that does better when you're already winning, but is too slow to close out an aggro game. So where does it really fit?
Yeah.
That's the difficulty. It's not a good card when you're behind on health. And it's not like it has taunt or anything, so it doesn't really get you back in the game. And even when it is powerful, it doesn't have an immediate effect and has a ton of ways to be removed before you get anything out of it. So
I agree.
Not a fan.
I think they just needed some more dragons in this set, and not every dragon can be absolutely amazing and do crazy stuff. And it just happens to be that he is one of the, more average dragons that. It's cool. It's not a bad card. But it's just also not an awesome card.
Agreed. Also, I think I pronounced it Draconoid. It's Draconid. So,
Draconid.
If anyone has a problem with that, it's not Draconoid. As much as I'd love that to be a card, it isn't one yet. Oh, I felt so vindicated, though, because I was going through and reading the flavor text from all the Blackrock cards yesterday. And the Flame Waker's text is amazing. Did you ever read it?
No, I haven't read it.
Let me read it. I'm typing. This is why there's this horrible noise. Flame Waker flavor text, because this made me feel so vindicated when I read this. Flame Wakers hate being confused for Flame Walkers. They just wake up fire. They don't walk on it. Walking on fire is crazy. Yet again, Hearthstone plugging in very well to the mistakes its community is going to make.
So, yeah, they are completely aware that this guy is easily mistakable for Flame Walker.
I mean, it's a picture of him, and he's walking or slithering, and there are flames all around him. It's very easy to read that it's Flame Walker. So
I think it was Rob in the last meetup. It was so funny.
Oh gosh,
we were all hanging out, and it was Rob who came up. And he was like, "Well, when he first came out, I thought he was called the Flame Wanker." And we were like, what? He was like, yeah, just keep calling it the Flame Wanker for the longest time. I was like, what are you talking about?
That was one of the funniest moments on the Hangout, for sure.
Oh my god, that was so funny. And then, after that, the Flame Waker just became the Flame Wanker.
Maybe if you switch to EU servers, that's what it's called. Who knows?
So basically the name of this card is very misleading. So
it is.
Just know that it's called the Flame Waker, guys.
Exactly. Don't get yourself in trouble. Just call it Flame Waker and everything will be fine. Moving on to the next card, we have the Dragonkin Sorcerer. It is a 4-cost minion, common rarity, 3 attack and 5 health, and you guessed it, it's a dragon type. Whenever you target this minion with a spell, gain +1/+1. Is it just me, or is that feels weird? Gain +1/+1. Would their text normally say something like this minion gains +1/+1? It sounds like you gain. It says whenever you target this minion with a spell, gain +1/+1. For some reason, it sounds like your hero is gaining +1/+1.
I guess, grammatically, it does say that. But I mean, it's impossible for you to get a +1/+1, so I guess implied.
It's fairly obvious, yeah. But it's okay. So my problem with this is coming from a Magic background, especially a Magic limited background. Enchantments are so easy. So enchantments in Magic or auras is the idea of playing a card that buffs a minion. Using those makes it so easy for you to lose card advantage because you're pouring multiple cards into one single card that can be removed with a single card. So you're like asking to be 2 for 1.
Yeah, but it's like a permanent spell, right? It's not a creature, and it's not like a spell that has an effect and goes away. Basically, it lingers around, and as long as the card is in play.
So, like, for example, you play Power Word Shield on it, and then a Priest Shadow Word pains it. That means you just used, or it would become a 4/6, so that couldn't actually happen, but work with me here. Someone kills it with 1 card. Suddenly, you use 2 cards on 1 card, and you've just been 2 for 1 kind of by your own making. But it sounds like Hearthstone is flexible enough right now with its cards. Some examples, they're like Blessing of Wisdom. You can play it on an attack and you already get your card back for Blessing of Wisdom. Or a better example is the priest spell that gives it health, and then you draw a card as part of that. So it seems like there are some spells to work with this. Or what's it called? Light of the Naru. If this card gets hurt, then you can heal it up. If it gets like down to 1 health or something, you can heal it up and then also get a Light Warden out of it. So it sounds like there are some spells in Hearthstone that can actually work with this pretty well without putting you at a disadvantage.
Oh, I see what you mean. Like in Magic, you have all those enchantments, and sometimes people do make the mistake of putting too many eggs in the same basket, and then if the basket gets taken away, you basically lose all your cards.
Right, including in Magic, there are a ton of like return to target creature to hand, like there's a huge blue thing, so you can just like pay 1 mana and all their enchantments go into the graveyard. So it's
I see what you mean. Like you're saying, maybe spending too many cards on this guy and then him getting removed, and then you find yourself kind of like without anything else.
Exactly. But I think Hearthstone has some cards, as I was talking about, that keep your card advantage up or don't overinvest, like Power Word Shield, because that gets you a card in return for it.
Yeah, I think Priest is positioned really well to take advantage of this card quite well. Because you're right, you basically don't want to overload this guy with spells and then just your opponent just uses hard removal or like polymorph or something like that, and you're kind of like out of luck. When I was using this guy, I found that it was best to not buff him until you found a reason to.
Right.
So you play him, and you try to play him into a board that is not going to get killed. Fortunately, with the 5 health, means it survives a lot of things. As long as your opponent doesn't have anything on the board, it can survive Swipe, it can survive True Silver Champion, it can survive, Wrath. Most of the easy or cheap removal is going to not be able to kill this guy.
Yeah, I think this card would actually be substantially worse if it was a 4/4.
Yeah, I agree. I think the 5 health is very much intended. So as long as you play it smart, this guy sticks in the board. And then I would not advise, for example, playing this guy and instantly playing Velen's Chosen on him.
Yeah.
Power Word Shield might be fine just because Power Shield cycles. And then it does put him on 8 health, which is almost impossible to kill in turn 4 or 5. Like if you have a Dragon Sorcerer and coin on turn 4, you can just play him, coin out the Power Word Shield, and more than likely this guy will stick.
Yeah, it's really just, be thoughtful when applying an enchantment to this guy. Like, if you can you play him one turn, and then the next turn you can play, Light of the Naru on him, and then remove a minion without him dying, you got a card for it. So even if they spend another card to kill him, it's at least 2 for 2.
Yeah.
So long as you're careful about how you apply enchantments to him, because Hearthstone allows you to target specific minions, it's much easier to immediately get value out of someone before having to wait for the opponent to react.
Absolutely.
As opposed to Magic, which has a very different combat system.
I agree with that. So yeah, you basically, like I said, you don't want to put all your eggs on the same basket, and only buff this guy when you need to. For example, if you've already played him and then maybe your opponent next turn overloads the board, you can then play a Velen's Chosen and Holy Nova.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually a pretty darn cool card, and I 100% agree that Priest is the way to do it. So
yeah, Priest is really cool for this card.
Indeed. Speaking of really cool, we have the Paladin Class Challenge card. It is a 5 cost. The only class challenge this wing. There's just one left for them to do since, there's an odd number of classes. It is called Solemn Vigil. It is common rarity spell. And it reads, draw 2 cards, costs 1 less for each minion that died this turn. So we have the return of your favorite mechanic, whatever it's called. Unfortunately, there is no good name for it right now, but it's a fun mechanic. But yeah, we talked about this card actually a little bit earlier in the episode. Any additional thoughts on it?
I love it. I love the mechanic. I hope to see more cards with this mechanic. And it's great. It's a great card for Paladin. Paladin doesn't have a cheap card draw that doesn't rely on a bunch of other things, like you said, Divine Favor.
Yep.
And then it's cool. It's a cool mechanic to play around. You can squeeze in this card in a lot of turns, sometimes even for 1 mana, sometimes even for free, which is really, really cool.
Equality Consecrate, Solemn Vigil. There
but
you go.
Like I said, you need to find the right deck for it.
Yep.
It definitely has to be a board-centric deck and a deck that likes trading.
Yep. Again, I like it for Arena because you just trade one minion into another, they both die. You've got an Arcane Intellect. It's good, and running out of steam is so easy in Arena.
Honestly, getting 2 cards for 3 mana is a good, as we've seen before. And then having the chance for it to be even cheaper than that is even better.
Yeah, it has the potential for a great tempo. It allows you to keep tempo and be clearing the board while also filling your hand, which is not all that common. So it's pretty cool. It's a little similar to like when you can play a Cult Master onto the right board in Arena.
I think this card was really well thought out, especially for Paladin that has very limited card draw. They didn't want to give Paladin just like, absurd card draw because Paladin already has very strong mid-range minions and very strong ways to stay on the board. So you don't want to give him like too much drawing power because then they become too well-rounded, right? Or they could do everything. But this card basically combines that ability to have a strong board and have minions that are constantly trading and get a little bit of card draw.
That's something I appreciate about Paladin is they have some of everything, but they're not like ridiculous at anything. And this is just kind of filling out that Paladin toolkit a little more, which is always fun. Is giving them even more options, which is one reason Paladin is one of my top favorite classes, just because it has so many different ideas and options, and this just adds to that. So
for sure.
Yay, Solemn Vigil. Moving on to the legendary, the final card of Blackrock Mountain itself, we have Nefarian. He's a boss. You fight him. You kill him. Spoiler alert. He dies. He is a 9-cost minion. He is a dragon type. It is 8 attack, 8 health, legendary rarity, and it reads, Battle Cry, add 2 random spells to your hand from your opponent's class. Oh, I'm so sad Billy's not here because this has been like his most anticipated card the entire expansion.
That is true. He's been talking about him nonstop.
So yeah, this guy, I'm trying to think my initial thoughts on this. I love the idea, but okay, so let's just look at it this way. The idea of playing a 9-cost minion and getting 2 cards while also playing an 8/8. Let's just, the card advantage angle before we say what the cards are specifically. How do you think, like if it said 9-cost, play an 8/8, draw 2 cards, what would you think of that?
I mean, that in itself is very strong, right? You're drawing cards and playing a huge guy. That part is really good. Depending on what class you're playing, the cards might not be that useful.
Yes, and that's one of the problems is one obvious thing is like, oh no, not all cards in the game are good, so you might get bad cards. But beyond that can be even worse. This reminds me of a card in Magic, which allows me to search my opponent's library, choose one of their cards, and play it. It's great when I'm playing someone who's playing the same colors as me. But when I'm playing like blue-green and they're playing completely different colors, it becomes like useless. I can't play any of their cards.
Yep.
Hearthstone isn't as like, since you all use the same mana, it's not as problematic as that because you can, just play any card you get. But what if you're facing Rogue and you get, any of their weapon buffs, or you're facing Hunter and you get any of their beast synergy,
or you get like Sense Demons or something like that.
Right. So there's just so many. I mean, people of course have made whole tables of crunching the numbers for this guy.
I actually haven't seen the percentages of because I do like seeing those because those are pretty helpful once you realize if it's worthy the risk.
Yes, I read one several weeks ago. I'll try to link it in the show notes if I can find it. But someone went through and basically graded from like A to F how good each class card would be to get. Of course, that's going to be subjective, but at least it's a basis. And then found all the class cards and like what percentage you were to get a top tier card depending on the class you were facing. good way to go about it, and I don't remember all the numbers in my head. So it'll be easier to understand this card once you get those kind of statistics and realize how likely is it that I'll actually get something okay out of this. Very similar to like Bane of Doom for Warlock.
Yeah.
But on its face, it sounds very, very iffy, especially to be like one of your few 9 costs that you put in your deck.
It's a tricky card for sure. I've only played him once, and I played against a Pally, and I ended up getting the +3 attack, Blessing of Might. Is that the name of the card?
Yep, that is the card. Mm-hmm.
And then I got Lay on Hands.
Oh, that's an amazing one.
Yeah, that's an amazing card. I never got to use it the entire game, actually. I never had the spare 8 mana to just use it, but I did get it.
That's still an incredible pull, especially since you played it on turn 9, you can already play that. So that's really good.
Yeah. But unfortunately, right after I played it, I got played. My opponent played Rend Blackhand on it.
Yep.
So that was pretty anticlimactic.
Yeah, the 8/8 body, like, the thing is, once you get them on there's nothing real special. It's just, a giant big game hunter deals with it, and you kind of polymorph or hard removal deals with it. It's nice, but it's not like I win the game kind of nice.
Like when I played him, I did feel the tempo swing. Once my opponent played Rend, I was like, oh crap.
Yeah, it's not
now
really...
I'm behind, and this Lay on Hands is not going to do a match.
You play it, and then he just deals 8 damage to your face, and it's like,
yeah, exactly. Work. So it's the 8 mana does make him. I mean, the 9 mana does make him a little tricky to play, and especially because you have a chance that the spells are not that good. Although you have a chance that you do get really good luck and get amazing stuff right out of it. Right. But you do risk a tempo loss by playing this guy.
But think of this, like, okay, you're facing Rogue, the Rogue is on 8 health, you play this guy, you have 10 mana, you play Nefarian, you get Conceal, then you play Conceal with your 1 remaining mana, and they concede. So, they're obviously...
that might happen. There's a chance that will happen.
Somewhere in the world,
I'm sure somebody might have already done that.
Yeah, so, there are things to do with him, but it's not... it's a card that I want to keep playing and just, like... Yeah. I think it's one of those cards that people who are going to play it, are going to get very annoyed when he doesn't do good things for them. But just don't expect him to. Play him with the understanding that, like, you're going to get 2 cards and just assume the worst case scenario.
I could maybe see him, like, in the Dragon Paladin, right? Like, if you choose... you have to choose, like, Ysera or this guy.
Yeah.
And then with Thaurissan and the Consort, you might be able to play him without as much liability.
But it's the problem with them is it's hard to theme it around anything. Like, you can't count on what these spells do.
Yeah, you
can't. There's no saying they will actually help you. And there aren't many cards or decks right now which are just like spells in general are good.
Yeah.
I mean, so
at least for competitive play, I don't think we'll see this guy being played around. Just because, for competitive play, you need to know what you're getting yourself into.
Yep. That said, in Arena, I could see picking him fairly often.
Oh, in Arena, I think this would be amazing, especially because it gives you 2 extra cards, and card draw in Arena is highly sought after.
Yeah, he would probably be my second pick from this expansion for Legendary. Well, Thaurissan is also really good. Like, Thaurissan and Chromagus, I might pick over this guy, but like Rend and Majordomo, I would easily put him in an Arena deck before them. Because how often are you going to see another legendary to kill with Rend? And what are the likelihood you're going to have dragons in your hand? So,
yeah, exactly.
He's pretty good for Arena. He's also fun. It also uses like the mechanic in Nefarian really well because the boss fight steals spells from your class. So it's fun to be able to harness that power yourself and start wrecking some fools.
Yeah.
So there you go.
It does feel good playing him, though. I won't argue that.
Yes, I imagine it's a nice fanfare.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to be pretty
Usually your opponent will emote something right after you play it.
Onyxia is a card. Onyxia is the one that summons all the 1/1s, right?
Yeah.
All right. So that's going to be interesting. I want to see a Nefarian v Deathwing.
Didn't somebody tell us that when you play Deathwing or something on the Nefarius fight, he goes like... Daddy? Is that you? Or something like that?
He does. I forgot about that. Yeah, we did hear that. That was amazing. I want to see that happen now.
Another Easter egg.
There you go.
They have a ton of them. Like, for example, when you play Karen against the warrior, and he goes like, you have betrayed the horde, or something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't notice that. Yeah. The
you are unfit to rule the horde. That's what he says.
Yep. That was one of the most tragic moments I find in Warcraft history is when Garish unwittingly killed Cairn. That was very sad.
Yeah, what a douche.
Well, okay. In Garish's defense, it was actually another Tauren who wanted to steal control of the tribe who secretly coated Garish's weapon with poison. So
True,
it wasn't
he didn't really want to kill him. It was an accident, but
yeah.
At the end of the day, he was kind of
still a jerk.
and then he did kill him.
I mean, there's the part where he became like an old god and started trying to kill everyone.
Yeah.
So yeah, Garish has some crimes to atone for sure. And speaking of crimes to atone for, we better end this podcast. not quite sure how that segue works, but it does somehow. I was going to talk this week about the power ranks that Liquid Hearth have been running. I found the last week really interesting, but we kind of ran out of time and actually covered a lot of that in our kind of opening where we were talking about what decks we've been playing. But if people want to check it out, I will put a link in the show notes. And it's a really cool article overall. They seem to be putting these out every week now. I find them very enjoyable. It's a very clean, quick way. If you just want to keep up with what decks are out there, it does a fantastic job because it has like an intro paragraph where it'll say what the deck is, and that's pretty much the same week to week. But then it'll have an updates paragraph. So if you've already read up on all the decks in a previous week, you can just see what's changed this week, and it's a very quick and very fun way to figure out just what's going on with everything.
For sure. And those kind of summaries are great to stay on top of what's happening in Hearthstone, especially now that there's going to be some changes to the metagame. It's good to know what's happening, and usually this kind of summaries have access to a lot of information that's been gathered by many players. So the information in it is quite reliable, and it gives you a bigger snapshot than what you might get just playing by yourself.
For sure. Something I really appreciate about this one is they're very open why and how they're ranking it, because they have, I believe it is like 6 or 7 different pros who they all ask to rank like their favorite, what they think the best decks are from 1 to 20, and then show a table of all of this and then take the averages of the rank and create their list from it. So like you can tell, oh, this was based on Firebat, Strife Crow's opinion and all of the other people. So they're not, it's not necessarily objective, but it's a compilation of subjective opinions that's transparent as to how they got to it.
Yeah.
So it's a really good system. I enjoyed it a lot.
And honestly,
and
it's all valid opinions, right? These guys are playing these decks all day long, and they are very familiar with the matchups. They know what they're doing, so...
Oh, yeah. It's excellent information. I just like being able to see what the information is.
It's like transferring their brain power to yours.
Exactly. And I am so sad that mid-range Paladin is actually really low now.
Really? It went down?
It's like rank 17 out of 20.
17, wow.
Yeah,
because
it keeps going down.
A couple of weeks ago, mid-range Paladin was almost at the top, I would say.
Well, apparently it's terrible against Patron Warrior.
It is, actually. Every time I get a Paladin, when I'm playing the Patron Warrior, I kind of giggle a little bit to the inside.
Yeah, so I'm probably going to retire that a little bit for now. Luckily, mid-range Zoolock is super high. I've been loving that. And then number 1 is Grim Patron, so I need to learn that.
Nice.
So it's an exciting meta right now. I think what's really interesting is I believe every class I think every class has 2 at least pretty viable ways to play it.
I think you're right. Yeah, every class has a couple ways.
Yeah, even like Shaman and Priest, and that's pretty rare to get all of that. So it's actually pretty fun to see that, you can't just assume what something's going to be when you run into it. It might surprise you.
And ideally, it'll keep growing, right? Ideally, there'll be like 3 or 4 decks that you can play per class. Yeah, the cards just keep growing. And I actually have to take that back. Right now, there is one Rogue. I don't know of anything other than Oil Rogue right now. So you're right. Rogue has... Rogue has a couple different variations, but aside from Oil Rogue, there hasn't been a very successful Rogue around.
I'm hoping Mill Rogue does something.
That Mill Rogue kind of did a little splash, but I think it was more of a novelty than anything else.
For sure. I'm excited to see Mid-Range Hunter. I know very little about it. I'm just excited to see Hunter getting finally,
Yeah, Mid-Range Hunter is coming back. Although that kind of Mid-Range Hunter has been around for quite a while. It just kind of like phases in and out of the meta.
And it seems to be working right now. So that's pretty cool.
No, right now it works pretty well. It's actually pretty decent against Patron Warrior.
Yeah. That's like the what would you say, the measure for every deck right now. Like, how does it fare against Patron Warrior? It's the old how does it fare against Face Hunter, so...
I think
Wait, how
Patron
does
Warrior.
Face Hunter deal with Patron Warrior?
I
Out of
think
curiosity?
it's kind of a 50-50. I think it's pretty even. If you do not get your early game as a Patron Warrior, let's say if you don't draw into your War Axe or your Death Spite and maybe like your Armor Smith, you can lose pretty quick. On the other hand, if you do draw into those, the Hunter is gonna have a bad time.
Yeah, it reminds me of the old days where you like had to hope you got a fiery war axe against Zoolock when you were playing.
Yeah,
Control
basically
Warrior.
with Hunter, you want to be really aggressive as always. And if you
That's
manage to
weird.
get on the aggressive side as the Patron Warrior early on, then you're good to go. If you don't, then you will probably lose.
That's the evil thing about Face Hunter is because it's directly to face, the normal control types of like, well, I'll just remove their board don't work because by the time their board is on, by the time they play a minion, it's already done its job. Like anything beyond that is gravy. Like Leopardome's still going to do 2 damage. A charge minion already did its damage. Their hero power is already doing its damage. So it's really hard to play a control game against them. You have to like counter them with your own aggression.
And like always, if the Hunter gets the amazing God Hand, it's gonna be very hard for you to beat it.
But I mean, that's just true of the game. I mean, it's at some point there are, random variables coming in. So not every game is winnable, which is fine. That's why you play a lot of games to figure out, how a deck is doing or how you're doing on a given day. So, well, that'll wrap it up. If you want to find us on Twitter, we are at Hearthaholics. On YouTube, we are Hearthaholics, a Hearthstone podcast, and same on Facebook. You can see our Whales Are Whales page. We are hosted on the Whales Are Whales podcasting network there. It is whalesorwhales.com/Hearthaholics, and that's a landing page for everything. So if you just want to link to any of our social media or our archives or whatnot, you can find it all there. If you want to talk and hang out with us sometime, we run a game night for The Angry Chicken, a fellow Hearthstone podcast. And if you go on their subreddit, which is like Reddit r/r or Reddit/r/TAC podcast, and I'm going to double check that, which I should start putting in here. Yes, that is correct. So reddit.com/r/TAC podcast. If you check out their subreddit, I post there every week with details about the TAC game night. And you can hang out, get in a Google Hangout, and play some Hearthstone with us. It's a lot of fun, and that's actually how we all met. So.
Absolutely. Those hangouts are super, super fun. A lot of people come, and they just want to have a good time. We play with random decks. We play little tournaments. We just hang out and talk and have fun.
Absolutely. We are currently doing them every night at 8 p.m. on Tuesdays. That may switch to Wednesdays, but I'll be posting all the details as always, and we would love to see you there. If you want to find us personally on Twitter, I am Lord Meldor. That is LordMeldorr. And Andres is I Play Games. IPLAI for I Play, in case you're confused, games. And then if you want to find my stuff elsewhere, I do a lot of different shows on Whales Are Whales. Just head to whalesorwhales.com and you can find pretty much everything I do there. I do a video game music podcast. I do a podcast about storytelling and literature, etc., etc. Where can people find you, Andres?
Aside from the Twitter page, they can find me over at my website, massevemusic.com. Over there, you can find all the music that I make, including the intro music for this podcast. You can also listen to it for free on soundcloud.com/Masseve, or we can also find us on Spotify, iTunes, all those places. And yeah, go check it out. We do awesome music, and we update it every so often.
Yeah, absolutely. I am very excited to see what you guys put out next because
it's actually coming out pretty soon. I'm hoping the end of this month. We have about 5 new songs are about to come out.
That's super cool. I really enjoyed that EP you guys put out recently, so I look forward to seeing
nice. I'm very glad. This one is gonna be kind of cool. It's a little more cinematic, a little futuristic, a lot of big drums and crazy synths.
I like crazy synths. This is sounding really good. So do you find it a big departure from the kind of stuff you were doing before?
It's similar, although the one we did before was a little more like rock center, I feel. We did a lot of like heavy guitars and like rock drums, a lot of like heavy breakdowns. It's very action based. This one I feel like is a little more sci-fi, spacey, kind of like the universe and
nice. Any particular like inspirations you had for this album? Any music you were listening to and like we need to do stuff like this, or was it just kind of come out of the ether?
We listened to a ton of different music, but for this one, I think a lot of the inspiration came from more like cinematic pieces, more movie-like, because it's all instrumental, and it's not necessarily like a song structure. It's very aimed towards, video and film and
so it's like kind of atmospheric,
that sort of
stuff.
thing. So yeah, there's some structure to it, but it's more like very big rises and falls, so a lot of emotion.
Yeah, it's really interesting how film score recently has really trended towards that kind of minimalistic, kind of conveying general emotions rather than just like playing a straight melody, which is more of the way in older form film scores. So that's really cool. I can't wait to hear what you guys put out.
I mean, I think is music for different sort of thing, right? Like you got your traditional song structure, which works really great for radio or music videos, stuff like that, and then you got more like instrumental music that might work better for a scene or a backing song of some sort that is there to reinforce a feeling rather than being the center of attention, right?
Exactly. You don't exactly want Bon Jovi singing through the Dark Night the entire time.
Yeah, so exactly.
you need changes in theme from time to time. Well, that's really cool. Can't wait to see that. Also, everyone, we are on Spotify and iTunes, so just search Hearthaholics, a Hearthstone podcast, and if you want to leave us any reviews, that would be fantastic. We will read them on the show, and thank you, and probably not send you money, but you can always hope. So, yeah, that'll do it for this week. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and thank you, Andres, for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely, Brian. It's always a pleasure to be here. Hopefully, next time we'll be back with Billy.
Exactly, and since Billy's not here, I just realized I had to find the flavor text for this week, which I just found. So, everyone, you can try to guess what card this is from. We're not going to tell you, but until next time, I leave you with this. Each year, folk gather in front of Blackrock Mountain to mourn those who were mind-controlled into the lava.
Let the hunt begin.